This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to welcome a guest whose impact on the fantasy football community over the years has been immeasurable. He has previously been named Humanitarian of the Year by the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association. He's also been a recipient of the Matthew Berry Game Changer Award. Now, a few days ago, I asked Matthew Berry if he had a few words to share about our special guest, and Matthew absolutely nailed it when he said, "For my money, there is no person who embodies the best of what fantasy sports has to offer: camaraderie, friendship, competition, fun, and trying to make the world a better place through connecting different people from all walks of life while working to make this a better world in which to live, laugh, and love than Scott Fish." Now, my guest is indeed the one and only Scott Fish. Welcome in, my friend.
Jeez, Matthew, that is. I don't even have words for that. You've rendered me speechless to start the show, my man.
Well, that was the goal. I got to get you right where I want you. No, I love
right where you want me, not speaking for the whole show.
Well, there you go. Obviously, celebrating the fantasy football experience, something I love, and to do it with you is an honor. So let's kick this off by sharing with the viewers and listeners. Let's to start what the number 24 is doing in your social media handles, because to me, as a Seattle sports fan growing up with the kid himself, it's pretty awesome. So let the viewers know where that came from.
Yeah, that's it's purely a Griffey Jr. thing, man. Growing up, that was I think I actually liked baseball before I liked football. I feel like I liked them all about the same time, but the Twins were good. they won the World Series in '87 and '91. Right about that time, I was I was obviously into football too, but Ken Griffey Jr. came out like '89. He came out.
Yep.
Yeah, so it just became my favorite player almost immediately. Loved the video game. Every time Seattle came to Minnesota, I would go to the Seattle Twins games. It was just my favorite player, man. And I've loved the number 24 since, and it's been in everything, I guess.
Now, once you mentioned to me that you had some stories about Griffey back in the day, anything you want to add to that? Because I never got the story.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't know how many stories I have. I just a lot of memories of going with my dad and stuff. I do remember one particular Seattle game we went to, and it was a blowout. And I should look up this game to find the exact score, but I swear it was something like 9-1 or not. Like, it was ridiculous. Seattle was destroying us, and we live an hour and a half away from the Metrodome, so you know. It's a blowout. My dad's like, we should hit the road. It's a night game. We should head on home, because otherwise we'd be home past midnight. Listen to the radio on the way home, and somehow the Twins come back and tie it. They go to extra innings. The Twins win in extra innings. It's just like and the weird thing is, even though I didn't get to be at the stadium for that comeback, listening to it on the radio with my dad on the way home it's still a memory for me to this day. Like, even when you think you might have missed out on something, I didn't. I have a slightly different memory. I wasn't in the stadium for it, but that one always sticks with me.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously, baseball on the radio can do that.
Oh yeah, and we had Herb Carneal back in the day. Like, there's some of those Vox guys, the Paul Allens here and the Vin Scully, and they're just places where, the announcer just makes it for you.
Yeah, Dave Niehaus for the Mariners was incredible, especially during those days when the Mariners had a little bit of magic. Now, do you remember when you discovered just a love for sports? Was it just super early?
It was. I wish I had a good answer for when it was. I know I remember watching when I watched the World Series in '87. I definitely was watching, and I would have been 8 for that. So I remember watching before that, but it was Yeah, that's probably one of my earliest memories watching and truly enjoying sports is that twin season.
Yeah, it was good. It was back in the day with Puckett. It was fun to watch those squads. Was it Jack Morris and was it 91 where he just owned the series?
Yep. And that game 7 for Jack Morris was unreal. Like 10 innings, 1 hit, just yeah.
Unbelievable.
You don't see that anymore.
No, for sure.
They don't do that.
No. So when did you discover fantasy sports for the first time and fantasy football particularly?
Yeah, so that also came about in the late 80s. Not fantasy football, but I started playing fantasy Big Ten basketball with my dad. Have I told you this story before?
No.
I started playing fantasy Big Ten basketball with my dad. And what we did, a bunch of the teachers in the school got together for a night, had a live draft. Um, it was an auction. It was a live auction, believe it or not.
Wow.
Where we would auction for the incoming freshmen for the Big Ten incoming Big Ten freshmen, and you would keep them throughout their college basketball career. So you would auction for the incoming freshmen each year. And so when I started playing fantasy football in 1992, I assumed that's how I'm not like Dynasty has been around since the 70s, and I had no idea what Dynasty was. But so when I started playing in 1992, that's how I thought you did it. You had a draft, and each year you drafted the incoming rookies. So like I very fondly remember like my '95 rookie draft, jumping up on a chair or whatever, and being like, JJ Stokes is the next Jerry Rice and stuff like that. Like that was a good year too for wide receivers. Joey Galloway, Michael Westbrook. That was a good year for wide receivers. But
Well, so with Big Ten basketball, you're talking like Fab Five and stuff?
yeah, like that came a little bit later, but yeah, that would have been pretty near that, yeah.
Probably 93, right?
Yeah,
90.
yeah, probably. We probably still. I mean, my dad played it for many years, but I was probably still playing at that time. I remember
Amazing.
guys like Evan Eschenmeyer playing for like 9 years for Northwestern. So I think it was like 6 or something, but it felt like forever when you're a kid. He's always on the team. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. A lot of
That's
fun.
awesome. Well, you've obviously been committed to this game of fantasy football forever, for as long as you can remember. What do you love most about the fantasy football league experience?
Oh man. Oh gosh, that is such a huge question. Like you're a commissioner, so you definitely understand. Like you go all out. It's you have your home league. Like so for me, my favorite part about leagues are mostly I think it's like 75% the camaraderie and community and 25% fun settings that make you do stuff. um, but there's so many parts about the fantasy football experience I love, but I'd say the community and the interaction is probably my favorite part. My home league that's been running for 32 years now. We're in year 32. Uh, it's been a big staple of keeping all of us connected. Most of the league has like there's only 2 original members from that 92 season, but most of the league has been in since 98. Like it's a way we can stay connected from moving on to different states, different careers, wives, kids, etc. I love that it keeps people either connects people or keeps people connected.
Yeah, it's great. Now, I've noticed you've done a lot with your home league, like with the drafts lately. What are the special touches you've been doing lately with the live draft at home?
Yeah, so we all kind of pitch in like our home league's only $50. It's really not much. Maybe that's a lot for some people, but it's for it to be your main league and some of these guys their only league, it's $50, but we all pitch in extra money each year to do something fun. This last year we had a mobile bar that they drop off and you set it up and it's got a bar and taps and TV inside and little bar stools and bar tables and stuff. You can just hang out and draft from there. We have in the past a couple times done some fun things with draft orders. Some years we don't. Like we try to change it up each year. I will say there are a few things about my home league that like I have been staunchly against changing though. Like it's one QB. I think it's one of my only one QB leagues. Like it's 10 teams instead of 12 or 14, which my other leagues generally are. I like to keep some of it a little bit old school. I understand never going back to the touchdown only days of the early '90s, but I like keeping a kind of a nostalgic element to that one.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to mess with that home league, the traditions, and I totally agree with that. Now, Minnesota is like it's like the hub of fantasy football. And there's so many content creators. Is it like that in the communities? I mean, does like everyone play there? Do you hear about a lot of local leagues and live drafts and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing. It's definitely a hotbed. A lot of fantasy, like the first ever fantasy football, like new like magazine thing was here. The first ever fantasy football radio show was here. In fact, that one is still running. I believe it's on. I think it's on your 30, maybe 29 or 30. Um, I should I should check for sure. I feel inaccurate not knowing if it's 29 or 30. But I'm on that show. It's Fantasy Football Weekly with Paul Charchi, and it's quite awesome. But honestly, you will go to we'll do live events, and just people will show up. We'll do a training camp. People will show up, and there's just times when I'll give you a really fun story that I like about. I think about 5 years ago, I went into a bar and grill type place with a buddy just to get some food, right? And they were missing two people for their draft, and they were just gonna, pick for them. And me and my buddy, we jumped in. We're like, and this is just you see people drafting at bar and grills in Minnesota. It just you see that. We jumped in, we drafted, and I tweeted about it. I'm like, this team's amazing. I got to tweet about it. I put it out there. I'm like, here you go, Stacy. Congrats. I hope you do well or whatever. And her team won the league, only lost one game all year, the one I drafted. And she offered to buy me like a case of beer or something, but I didn't need that. It was a fun time, a fun moment to be able to go in and do that.
That's all. You can't make the draft, and Scott Fish drafts for you. I like that.
Well, I don't I like I had just it was my first year on Fantasy Football Weekly, so I'm not sure anyone knew. Like in Minnesota, people listen to that show. It's on like the number one sports station in the country, and it's syndicated in many states. But that was my first year on that show, so no one. I don't think anyone at the table knew who I was, or that I was like remotely in the fantasy industry. But I did bring up Paul Charchian once at the table, and then they realized, oh, you're on that show. And
We got a ringer.
yeah, there were jokes about the ringer thing throughout
Nice.
the season after they realized, yeah.
That's great. Now, obviously, as a passionate commissioner, the world's most famous commissioner, Scott Fish. What's your favorite?
But all right.
What's your favorite last place punishment?
Oh, okay. So last place punishments is, and this is gonna sound crazy. I have never done this in a league. I love the idea of them. I absolutely love. I brought it to my home league about doing one, and they seem on board. We've just never settled on one. Honestly, it's got to be something that's like for me. It's got to be something that's a little bit unobtrusive. Like I can't do the tattoo type style ones. I'm never going to be interested in that. But when they're fun and get like the Waffle House one, that's fine. The like you have a bunch on your channel that are just awesome. I encourage people to check through those and look at Kevin's TikTok to look through those. But I honestly don't have a favorite because I've never done one. I see the hot wing ones and the like Cooter Amanda just did
Yeah.
like a Wonderlick test. Like that's the like I've heard of people going to take an SAT or an ACT. That's a little bit crazy for me, but that's good.
I love the extreme ones for other leagues. I love to
Yes.
see to be on the
I wanna
outside and
hear
see
about it.
what crazy things.
I don't want a 1 in 12 or 1 in 10
Exactly.
to do it.
Yeah, there's certain leagues where it fits, but it's fun to just that the league is having fun. That we both love engagement in a fantasy football league, recognize how important that is, and that league's having a good time at least that year until the guy gets in last place and then doesn't return, right?
Yep.
So you are also, so well known for injecting wild settings into fantasy leagues. Do you have a favorite or preferred setting in fantasy?
I don't think I mean, there are so many different levels to settings, whether it's scoring or roster construction or just yeah, there's so many different levels. I don't know that I have a favorite. I like trying new things. I like being able to bring things to the community that your average listener or player or whatever is like, oh, maybe I could bring that to my home league. That's where I get my joy, is bringing something out there and pushing it out there that people are like, oh, that's a thing. Maybe I'll do it. I do really appreciate bringing first downs into the mix. I just, it's really fun to watch. It's important in the games, in the actual NFL game, and it's fun to root for and fun to watch while I'm watching. And that's a big part of fantasy for me, is that I don't check scores while I'm watching. I don't check my fantasy scores while I watch games. So while watching games, knowing tangible things are getting me points is and important things like first downs is wonderful. Roster wise, I like lots of flexes. That's just something I enjoy, having several flexes. I probably prefer super flex over one quarterback, but like they're pretty even for me. I like one quarterback a lot. I have my home league's one quarterback. I'm in a charity league that's one quarterback. I like the drill of streaming, like either the grind and fun of trying to figure out a streamer each week, or drafting a stud and not having to worry about quarterback for the whole season or most of the season. I love both of those elements. I will say there's a setting that I wish more sites would allow, that I'm interested to get your take on it. Um, where you can put buy players, not just out or injured players or whatever. You can put players on buy on your like taxi squad or IR. Um, there are a couple sites that allow this, like if you set it up that way. And I have found those to be the most active Sunday mornings in any of my leagues, Thursdays and Sundays, ever, when I've had leagues with those settings, because people are moving their bye week players down, they're picking up new players. Like there's just a rush of activity twice a week when you allow those bye week players. Like, and the bye week doesn't sting as much because you get to try out these players that are on the waiver wire that you wouldn't want to drop someone for, So
I think that's phenomenal. I mean, anything that injects engagement, activity is great, and I think that obviously would do that. I've never heard of that. I think it's fantastic. I personally, I don't love leagues with short benches. I want, I want, because I don't know. Some people might like it because you have to kind of like be real thoughtful, and there's a lot of people on the wire. But I love the idea of being able to plug those buy players out and take flyers on people that you normally wouldn't.
yep. Yep, trying to find that sleeper, deep sleeper on the wire when you just throw people on the buy. Yeah, I had never thought of that saying until about 5 years ago, when I saw it was available on my fantasy league. And the second I did it, like the second I put that into the pigs leagues, I was like, it's unreal the amount of activity that it created, going into a week, because you're opening up, and you have to move them down. You're creating activity there. People are picking up. Then you have to drop and move them back and move other ones down next week. Like, unreal activity that it created.
I love it. I love it. That's it's definitely something. Hopefully, people will, or leagues or formats will bring into the mix. That's a good idea. Scott Fish has spoken. Make it happen. Now, obviously, at some point, you got technically involved in the industry. When did that happen? Take us back to that. To the origin of Scott Fish in the fantasy community.
Okay, so this is a story I've told a few times, but it basically summarizes is this. Excuse me. I was I was doing Devy leagues starting in the 90s, and I actually called them college farm system leagues at the time. So we draft college. For those that don't know, you draft college players, and they just sit in in your farm system until they get to the NFL, and then you move them up to your big club. There's some awesome varieties of that now, campus to Canton, where you actually play the college football season. But I was doing Devy leagues starting in the late 90s, right? And I wanted to look for better ways to do that, better ways to research, see what else is out there, who else is doing these, what is out there, And so I started joining like football message forums, like message boards, message forums, what fantasy football type ones. And I stumbled upon one in, I don't know, about 02 or 03 called Fantasy Football Cafe. And I was there, I was just a normal poster. And then within the first couple of years, they asked if I would, write their start sit and or waiver wire articles, and that's I think a lot of people's entry into this industry is those two main types of articles. At least back then, those were like the two main big articles that everybody had to have and had to do. And so I started doing those on that site. That owner of that site actually offered me like a ownership role position, like basically running the site a few years later. But I realized I didn't want to do that. I wanted to start my own thing that focused on a little bit more niche type stuff. Like those were the most basic starts and waiver articles for the masses that are out there, right? But when I moved off and I wanted to start my own site. It was called Fantasy Football Oasis. I brought in some guys from that forum, like Gary Davenport, who's now full time in the industry, as well, and Mike Kaus, and there's several guys that are still hanging around Twitter, or X now. But I started that site. We focused on IDP and Devy and PPR. Um, Within a couple of years, we were like doing tons of superflex work as well. And this is in the mid aughts, right? So like this is '07, right? So none of those things were popular at all, especially Devy. Like there was no other place for Devy rankings, Devy content, Devy pod, nothing. So we were able to get really good SEO Google search results on any of those three things.
It's incredible. Yeah. So that's where it all began. Now let's take me to the event that took place November 12th, 2014, and let us know how that impacted your life, your outlook on life, and everything involved with
I
that.
am surprised anyone knows the date. You have done some research, my friend. That's that's some incredible research, and it's crazy to me that I'm coming up on my 9-year heart anniversary here in a few days, or this month anyway. Um, yeah, so I had a heart attack. Uh, I did not I did not see it coming. I was still working my Pepsi job. So my wife and I were working kind of backwards shifts or whatever. I was working overnight. She was working during the day. Um, my son was Ian would have been about not quite 2 years old. He was one, like I don't know, a year and 10 months or whatever it is, year and 11 months. Um, but yeah, so I had a heart attack. I started feeling all the symptoms that you hear about on TV. I had pressure in my chest, like radiating up through my jaw. My arm felt a little tingly. I like to tell people I related to, when you feel lightheaded, like transplant that in your arm. That's how it felt for me. Like my arm just it felt off, like light, like it wasn't as tingly as it was, maybe a little tingly, but I don't know. Anyway, your typical symptoms that you see on anything. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I tried to lay in a bathtub. I tried laying down and falling asleep to sleep it off because, like, I don't know. I just didn't expect heart attack. But
Yeah.
my wife got home. I hadn't fallen asleep yet. I came out to her and I'm like, don't laugh. I think I'm having a heart attack. You expect more like the clutching chest falling down thing, but this was kind of a slow burn to it. And maybe you probably know a lot more about this stuff than I do, but it was an hour or so slow burn of that before she got home. She took me right to the hospital, got the EKG, checked it out. Yeah, you are currently having a heart attack. So it was a crazy moment. Yeah. Just to like it changes you when you have something like that. Obviously, I could go deeper into how it changes you, but it changes the way you look at things in life, right?
Yeah, for sure. Now you obviously you live by work hard, be a good person, everything else will follow. Talk to me about that. What that means to you? I mean, everyone can read that, hear that, and
Yeah.
have their own impression. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think some of that came on after that heart attack, I felt like I was always, I'm the nice kid, trying to be a good person. My wife always donated a ton to charity, and I did some. And after that, I got with, like, because you want to be a good role model, you want to be a leader, you want to use your platform for good once that happens. And I think the work hard, be a good person thing. I feel like everything that I've everything that has come my way good in my life, and I know there are sometimes circumstances that people, even that's not enough. I totally understand that. Just for me, I've found that if I'm constantly working hard, just busting my tail, doing the best I can, and being a good person, being a kind person, being nice to people, like, things things seem to have worked out pretty good. Like, you people don't want to hire they would rather hire the hardworking nice guy than the hardworking, like, mean guy, right? Like, or if you're lazy but a good person, maybe they don't want to bring you in if you're late, you know what I mean? So, like, I feel like just doing those two things can really help you succeed in just about any area, you know.
Yeah.
I could go on about it and deeper, but it just really feels like those two elements, everything falls into place if you work on those two elements. Like, every day, work on being a better person, being the best possible version of yourself you can be. And if you put in the effort, you put in the work, it just feels like things fall into place.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that makes all the sense in the world. And from the outside looking in, I mean, you do so much. People think, people see all the things you do in the community, but the amount of stuff you do behind the scenes, it's really mind blowing. All the interviews that I've done, over the last several months, I mean, everyone's mentioned you as a huge role model to them, that mentioned things that you've done for them that people wouldn't even know. Example like Peter Overzet said that he had just kind of got onto Twitter probably and just started something initially, and you reached out to him to build a website for him,
Yep.
and he had just arrived on the scene. It was like those kind of things, and then just to hear everybody's you know you know just saying how much you have influenced them, have been there for them, advised them, stuff that people don't know about, and it fits with your mantra. On the inside, on the outside, from either perspective, you're doing amazing things, and it's very much appreciated.
So it's Peter. Yeah, I've known him for years, and yeah, he's right. That fantasy football comedy hour was, I I just thought it was really ingenious, and I thought they were really funny, and they seemed like not seemed they're really, good guys. It was a good time in fantasy back then too. I look back on that time a lot. There was a lot of fun we were having.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously talking about fun, let's talk SFB. Obviously the rise of the SFB. It started with FF Oasis Invitational. Take us back to that, and let us know, like, when did you have the epiphany of SFB, and back then did you project forward to see into what it is right now?
So, definitely not this size or what it's become in the community. No, but yes, this was the idea, right? Like, so the idea, I worked, like, at Fantasy Football Oasis. Mike House actually ran the first two. Like, we we ran him as a site, but he was more the commissioner than I was for those first 2 years. I don't talk about that often, and I really should give him his due for be like actually doing the MFL work of it or whatever, and stuff. But we had run this listener league, reader league, 2 years, fantasy football invitational, where we got, analysts from other sites and brought them in to play with our listeners and readers, because we thought, that'd be fun and cool, and you get to play with, like, Mike Clay, you know what I mean? Like, and Mike Clay was still at PFF then, and like he was making a name for himself there, and we had some football guys, people from some of the major sites at that time. And then I Fantasy Football Oasis, I was kind of I was working so much that it was coming to the end of FF Oasis, and my wife had just had Ian, so like I took a year off from it, but I kept thinking about that one part of FF Oasis. The Devy stuff, I saw it starting to pop up lots of places, but the invitational, I always felt like it could be a real thing where I noticed from year one to year two, and then I noticed it a ton after, is once you get this analyst to play, like you tell another analyst, hey, this person's playing. And they're like, okay, I'll play. Like, and it wasn't, people weren't as overrun with leagues back then too. So it wasn't as hard to get people to join one extra league. But it just kind of, the idea was keep getting big name analysts to play with these fans and readers and listeners. And it's a huge fun experience for them. And the analysts and stuff get to play with like, it just felt like it could be a real big community thing. And what turned out is, once I really started to push it that third year after the year break, once I really started to push it, it snowballed like that. Once this person plays. And the next year it was easier when I reached out to big name people in the industry. And the next year was even easier. And there got to a point about year 6 or so where 6 or 7, I just stopped reaching out to people. I didn't have to anymore. Like they would reach out to me, which is a beautiful thing when that happens.
Oh, for sure. So when did charity become like the central focus of the event?
So that was probably pretty similar timing. So as when it started to get big, I believe it was year 5 or 6. So um, let's see, we started in 2010. There was a year off. Year 5 or 6 would have been 2015 probably. So after my heart attack, so that probably lines up pretty well as to when it really became. I can't remember if it was I'm pretty sure it was that year though, where I had a buddy in the industry doing a small Toys for Tots drive. He had done it for years in Vegas, and I'm like, I want to help you with this. And there were a couple other industry people who had stuff that happened that the community kind of banded together and helped them out. And so like that was a little bit of a drive for me then. And we did, I believe, $800. We raised $800 for that first Toys for Tots drive. And then the next year, that guy was kind of not really as much in the industry and not online as much, and he wasn't going to do it. Like I think that next year we actually did send him money to do some shopping, but that's kind of where it was born from, was that one little GoFundMe toy shopping drive.
And then charity obviously has become just a huge part of who you are now.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about your stance on charity and giving a league
Oh yeah,
one dues to
yeah, man. I used to go every show I went on for the longest time. I would tag the end, when you're like, follow me, Skyfish24 on Twitter, right? Where you would tag at the end, I would always be like, give one entry fee to charity. Doesn't matter what charity it is. And now that, mine is out there and official, and for the last few years or whatever, like I still say, I don't care if it's mine. Any charity, like just go research charities, have a giving spirit. Let's do some awesome good with this hobby of ours. I like to say there's hundreds of thousands of fantasy leagues, and if each one gave a little bit to charity, just a small amount, like imagine 100,000 leagues giving $10 each. The fantasy football community just gave $1 million to charity, right? And that it's going way over that, but yeah, it's just do some good with this hobby of ours. That's what I really feel like we can be doing and should be doing.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, what does it take to pull off SFB? What's the process? Like, when do you really kind of start going? When does it peak into chaos where you almost lose your mind? And then when does it settle down?
Okay, so I purposely don't start working on SFB until April. I need to, I may do little things behind the scenes here and there to get the databases and stuff set up right for it, but mostly I try not to get working until April on SFB. And now with the live event stuff, it might be a little early. It might have to be March because you have to get locations. You have to. There's stuff involved, but really, it's an April through the end of the drafts type of thing for SFB. Um, and it's a lot of work. We have a lot of volunteers. That's the beautiful thing about Fantasy Cares is we've never paid one penny in staffing. Like, who knows how big we'll get at some point that it might be, we might just have to, but we've never had to have anyone like an employee or anyone on staff for Fantasy Cares because we have so many volunteers. It's like it's just all of us, me, the executive board, all the avatar makers, the people running the live events, the like every piece right now, everybody just volunteers and helps out because it's for a good cause, which is beautiful. But it is an absolute ton of work. It is like having an extra full-time job for 3 months.
Oh, I can't imagine. No one can imagine what goes into it. It's crazy, but it is, it kicks off the fantasy football season for many people. It obviously does so much good. People love it. Brings the community together. There's nothing better. My experience with SFB, my first one was SFB 8. And I
Okay.
was one of those guys that just kind of said, "Oh, hey, why can I get in?" without knowing the process, and
Right.
and the draft, the invites went out, people got set up with their teams, and I was one of those that was reached out to by you, said, "Hey, we got a team to fill, can you take over this team?" So I took over a team, and that
Okay.
was my first entry into
Oh,
SFB, and obviously it's been a blast ever since.
man, that's a little surprising to me, but it's not surprising that you would do that. You would help out and stuff, but it's I'm surprised. Yeah, it's figured you would have just been an automatic invite every year.
This is SFBA. This is a while ago. I've been pretty automatic since, so I'll take that automatic. But that was that kind of just right at the height of the Commission of the Year stuff, and I think you and I kind of connected some, on commish stuff, and
Sure.
and uh and so I didn't even know, I didn't really know about the SFB, and I think invites had probably already gone out when I reached out and said, "Hey, how do I get in?" And sure enough, it
It's
happened. So
it still is one of my least favorite parts is the invite process. Like we can only have so many people. Like I'm not getting all 40,000 people who sign up into the league. I can't do that. Like you can't do that and keep it the type of league it's been. You know what I mean? Like then it just becomes and like it becomes like a best ball mania type thing for underdog. Like it's just a bunch of people and it's a little less connected, but there's some connection in those. I love underdog, by the way. I'm just saying I think if we were to invite like all 40,000 people, it would probably get a little bit watered down, and that's not the point of it. The point is, more to connect the community and all be a part of something.
well, it sure certainly does that. What is the future? I mean, are you at capacity now, for the time being? Are there certain things you're looking forward to in the future? I know that you recently obviously included live drafts, which we can talk about. But what is the future of SFP? Where are we going?
Yeah, so man, the live drafts I wanted for SFB after SFB 10, COVID hit. We got them for 12, I believe, 12 and 13. Um, did I think 11 of them in 12, and I think 17 of them this year. We're gonna push in the 20 to 30 range next year. We finally went international last year. Finally, after 2 years, we went international last year in Mexico City and London. Uh, but it's we're gonna have more live events. We're working. The beautiful thing about growing slowly, like SFB has done, it seems like it's just this massive thing, but it is growing slowly over 13 years. Like I I I 5% per year. The old Greg Daniels from The Office quote of the characters should grow 5% each. Whatever. Uh, it's a slow growth. I don't see anything monumental coming next year except for more live drafts. We already know the theme. stuff like that. I think the announcement videos are going to be pretty fun for next year, but I don't know what's other than potentially more people. I don't see a next step groundbreaking thing that's going to happen at least next year, to my knowledge. Not yet. Anyway.
That's all right. I mean, again, it's such a special event. You know, I had the honor of hosting one of those first live drafts in Seattle, and oh my gosh, I mean, just to bring a unique experience to the people that came was one of the highlights of my life when it comes to fantasy football. And then getting down to Trophy Smack this last year or this last summer to experience their version of it. Those live drafts are so special. So if anybody out there is in SFB or wanting to be in SFB, you know, if you can get to a live draft, I highly recommend it because it's so fun. And the worst part about it is everyone's unique. You want to be at all of them. So
yeah, that is the thing about them. I'm wondering if I should spread SFB out a little bit more than I do, like because like you said, the live drafts are so unique. Each city, like I will look at the pictures or videos or talk to the people who ran them, and I'm like, this is so different than the other one. Like the one in Las Vegas, like they're in pools having drinks on top of Circa. Like yours was like this home boutique experience, like just a magical home league vibe or whatever. Like the most amazing home league ever vibe, but like, and then Trophy Smack is like, just
it's Matt Walsh.
Yeah, Matt Walsh bonanza, right? Like just excitement and games and bowling alleys and like video games, pool tables, like all that kinds of stuff. And the Minnesota one's a lot more low key, but it's it's giant. Minnesota gets the most people signing up to go to it every year, so it's like twice the people as the Trophy Smack one, so like but it's it's at a bar and grill with a ton of space, and everybody's having fun. It's just God, all of them are so amazing. The New York one I looked awesome too. Like a lot of them look great.
Yeah, Chicago looks kind of like that, like that maybe that Minnesota vibe where it's just a bunch of people together having a great time. So many fun events. When it comes to SFB, again, you love those wild settings. Is there a year where you feel like you just nailed it? Like these were my favorite settings that I did, or is every year like your new favorite?
So I have two of them. I did a year, and it might have been X. I'm not sure. It might have been X. 10. It might have been SFP 10. I'll have to recheck. But one of the years, I made the scoring so balanced that people were like data sites were like PFF style, RotoViz style articles on how ridiculously balanced the scoring was. And as the season played out, it nailed like the balance between the positions and everything was so, but not just between the positions, but between the draft slots. Like everything was nailed perfect for balance, which is just like I loved that. But I don't know that that was my most fun. My most fun might be this year or the video game scoring, because I don't love negatives in fantasy football. I like my home league has every league I'm in except for SFB has them, right? Like, but and I understand the reasons for them because just like the year I had, bad quarterbacks could really score poorly, which people seem to really love or hate. But negatives, man, I feel like fantasy football is supposed to be fun, and maybe I'm just getting older, and I just want it to be fun, and scoring points is fun. Losing points is not quite as fun for me or anybody, I don't think. So it's probably one of those 2 years where there's just bonuses and scoring, and you're racking points and you're having fun.
Well, I was going to ask what are your most regretful settings, but I'm sure it's some of the negatives.
I do actually have a different answer for that.
what was the most regretful setting you put into SFB?
I kind of mentioned like bringing first downs to the forefront, so people could see they're done. And third round reversal, been around since the mid aughts too, since like 06 or whatever, or maybe even earlier. But like bringing that to the masses, I like to bring some things to the masses, like sacks on quarterbacks. Is it a QB stat? Should we throw it on QBs? Eventually, I'd love to have defensive pass interference as as a thing in SFB scoring. I've talked to the hosts multiple times for multiple years, and it's just I think the stat providers need to get in on that. But my most regretted setting I ever did, and I still look back and I'm like, God, man, I was pushing too hard. Is the year I introduced first downs. Like we did Superflex from year one. Like I have no problem with stuff like that. But the year we introduced first downs, nobody was doing first downs. Like it had existed, but like it wasn't really a thing. And I decided I'm gonna push first downs this year because I like having first down scoring, but I'm gonna go all in. I took away the PPR completely, just first downs. And oh, did people hate that? And this is in the prime heyday of PPR everything, PPR. Like now people have pulled back to like half, because they're like, wide receivers have gotten a little overvalued. Like PPR exists because wide receivers were undervalued, and it's shifted the other way. So people are moving to half now. But I did full on points per first downs and no PPR at all. So basically standard scoring in an era, 4, 5, 6 years ago or whatever, when people hated non PPR.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I pushed a little too hard on that year.
I love it. Now, obviously, SFB is known for its fun themes. It's incredible when it comes to merch and everybody's T-shirt collections that grow every year.
Yeah.
How many years in advance are you thinking of the next theme?
So, I always keep like a running mental slight list that's really gotten really really short. Next year's themes are decided. The last few years, the theme has been decided about a year in advance. Basically, at the expo each year, I know the theme for the next year. So we at least know in August of each year now. It seems like we've already started working on a lot of the theme stuff for next year. That's about what it is though. It's July or August of the previous years when we kind of figure it out. Sometimes, yeah, that's about right.
Nice. Now, do you want to drop an exclusive hint right now? No, I'm not going to make you do that.
Oh man,
No. Obviously, some people, can be obsessed with SFB and everything, surrounding SFB. Yet they're unaware of what you actually do for a living. Can you tell the listeners, viewers, about your role with Safe Leagues and the podcasts you do and the radio shows and all the things that you do that are not related to SFB?
Yeah, so my day job, I guess you would call it. It's really an all the time job, but I'm an employee of Sports Hub Games Network, which they are SharpLink. I believe they've now merged with another company, and they're SharpLink. They have like SharpLink, League Safe, Fanball, NFC, What If Sports, National Fantasy National Golf, and Safe Leagues, and a few others. I think they have a bunch of companies under their umbrella. And Safe Leagues is a contest operator. It runs, redraft and dynasty fantasy league, mostly dynasty fantasy leagues. We have about 1,200 dynasty leagues, which is the most of any contest operator out there. It's mostly low stakes. It's fun for people. That's my day job. That's what I do normally. And then I'm president and founder on the executive board, the board member of Fantasy Cares, which is a 501c3 charity. I do a weekly radio show in Minnesota, Fantasy Football Weekly, with Paul Charchian. Those are the main things I do now. There's lots of other things that come in and out. There's lots of like spots I do at times. I've done in the past. I've done Bull Rush podcast, Mission Impossible. I had a Sirius XM show for a couple of years. I've done lots of stuff, but those kind of come in and out. I want Commission Impossible to come back though.
I think we all do. Yeah. Now, obviously, when it comes to Fantasy Cares, things have obviously ramped up, and there's been a huge evolution of what that is. You're doing so much. It's fascinating to learn about what you've turned that into with helping people. And you're also passionate about some of the legalities that people aren't aware of out there in fantasy sports and gaming and tournaments and contests. Talk to me about Fantasy Cares, what that has turned into, where that's heading.
Yeah, Fantasy Cares, it is unreal to go from many years ago or whatever, a tiny little GoFundMe drive for Toys for Tots to fundraising group to nonprofit to a full-on 501c3 nonprofit. It's been quite a journey for that thing. We've watched it grow from very small amounts of money to absolutely amazing amounts of money that we can do so much good for. This year we're doing a fundraiser for type 1 diabetes. The way we're structured, we can help out any 501c3. We're able to help out a lot of smaller charities that could use our help out there. The live events for SFB can donate to charities in those local communities, which we did some of the last 2 years. But the main thing we do is, the biggest part is we're a national corporate sponsor for Toys for Tots. We work closely with them on buying toys in tons and tons of I think over 20 different cities this year. We'll be buying toys for Toys for Tots and helping them out. But it's just beautiful the amount of charities we can help now, and the amount of money we're able to help with it's just beautiful that this community has really started to really embrace this.
It's awesome. Well, it's fun. It's
than the bad eggs that ruin it for everybody, and we've had a few of those in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's that happens. So it's great that you have that knowledge, that expertise to help where you can. And obviously, Fantasy Cares has been embraced by the fantasy community. Talk to me a little bit about the fantasy football community. How much has the community meant to you over the years?
It's meant everything, right? Like some of my best friends are in this community. They're people I look forward to getting to see a few times a year at either the Expo or an FSGA event or a live event or my home league or whatever it is. Like it's where most of my friends are now. Like I have my close home league group of friends, but a lot of my friends are in this community, and it's just beautiful to see this community be able to do so much good and have such good hearts out there. Like it feels like the ones that don't kind of get out, don't last, and the good ones do.
It's true. It's true, and obviously the Expo has been really special for getting people to connect in person. What has the Expo experience been like for you over the years?
Oh man, I love the Expo. What Bob does with that Expo is just great. It's a chance to meet in person and drop all the any kind of online. Some people sometimes have online personas, or they're more abrasive online or whatever. I feel like most people are just pretty decent, at least my timeline. Maybe I just follow and pay attention to the right people, but getting to meet in person, that face-to-face connection it's so good. Like it doesn't feel like there's anything. Everybody is happy and enjoying their time, and they're just it's such a beautiful thing. I wish I don't even have the words to, like, I have a feeling that I want to express, but I don't have the words. I just go there and I smile ear to ear for like 3 days long, just enjoying meeting new people and connecting with people.
It's a magical event, no doubt. What's it like being at an event where nearly everyone, nearly 1,000 people are celebrating the SFB experience with your name on their shirts? What's that like for you?
I don't even notice that much with the shirts anymore. Like it feels like it's just it's like a fantasy community staple. Like it's a fantasy football community starter kit is having an SFB shirt, right? Like, so like I don't really think twice about the shirts anymore. I will say the first year I went to the Expo, it felt like I shook hands with 1,000 people. I know it wasn't that many, but it felt like I was constantly shaking hands and talking to like a new person every 5 minutes. And the second year was a little less of that, and the third year was even less of that. Because I feel like a lot of those people had, like, we'd met in previous years. So like this year felt a little bit different in that I didn't feel like I was being pulled from left to right at all times. It felt like I was a little bit of that, but I was enjoying just hanging out a little bit more.
Which is good. Yeah, I think it's hard. It's hard not to leave it and think, "Oh, I wish I would have talked to this person, that person." And you, of all people, are going to experience that at just a different level of gosh, like how was I when or how open was I to meet with all these people that want to talk to me? It's hard when
Oh,
you're probably getting pulled from every angle.
oh, yeah, yeah. I'm a classic overthinker with that stuff too. I remember leaving that first expo going, man, did I cut this guy off, and did I walk away from this interaction? Did I only talk to this guy for 2 minutes? Did I miss? Oh my gosh, that strains on me sometimes.
Well, there's no doubt that it's gotten just more relaxed, like like you described, more relaxed, just more enjoyable. It's just family, right? The community's
Yeah,
just kind of become
it really is.
family. It's
Yeah.
it's special. Now, what's your favorite event at the expo?
Uh, I honestly, I don't know that I have a favorite event. I just like it all. I like hanging out. I think I I really wish the panels were one after another on one stage. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think that might be planned. But I would love not having four at the same time, so I don't have to miss so many things. That's the only thing about the expo that I other than that, I love every other thing about, like, I love that too, but I love all of the expo. Um I love the actual expo part, seeing companies that I didn't know existed and getting to learn about them. I like to make at least one trip through and try to talk to most of the booths. I didn't do as well this year at that, but the last 2 years I was able to talk to every booth, which was awesome. I love the karaoke night. It's absolutely insane at Jose's Landing there. This one was kind of a split two karaoke spots. I did one and then went to Jose's Landing, but that's amazing. People are just letting loose, and realize there's some talent in this industry.
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
but mostly it's just the hanging out, right? It's just the hanging out that's the best part.
I love it. I love it. Now, one thing that I have, I've seen over the last year, and a lot of people have seen it, is just your you experiencing your son Ian
Yeah.
find his passion and love for fan. It's been so cool to see, how you've kind of entered that journey with him, and how much has that meant to you, watching him discover his passion for football and for fantasy football.
It's been amazing. It's been wonderful. Like, I as most dads, I support and love and like root him on in everything he does. Like, before he got into like sports at about age 7, he was very creative, and he still is. Like, writing plays and scripts and little books and stuff, and performing them, and like he still does like theater camp and stuff like that. Like that. Like, he was very artistic and creative. And sometimes around 7 or 8, he found sports, and he's been all in. He plays 4 sports now. And I still root and cheer on for him to do the creative stuff too. But I think there's definitely something special when it's uh, like, it's my job, it's my hobby, it's my life is in this arena. So connecting with him on something that's so core to what I do, um, it's another level, I think. Again, I support whatever he'd be interested in, but yeah, there's a bond, a connection there that's been made that's just wonderful. And we bring him up we have a lot 2 State Fair live shows for Fantasy Football Weekly each year. We bring him on the show. we have him do a segment or two with us. It's kind of fun. He wants to be a scout. That's the
Nice.
interesting thing. Like, it doesn't seem as much the fantasy side as he wants to be a scout. He loves the NFL draft side of things.
Oh, that's cool. Now, obviously, it was so much fun meeting him at Trophy Smack at SFB Live LA. I didn't particularly like when he beat me like by .6 a couple weeks ago in the Ian Fish Bowl. Still
Yeah.
pretty bitter about that bad beat. I mean, it was one of my worst bad beats in like 20, almost 30 years of playing fantasy football. So I will forever think of Ian Fish on how I felt that night a couple of weeks ago.
Good. That's I'll have to tell him that. Yeah, this has been an interesting year for him because this is the first he's got a few more leagues. I think he's got 4 or 5 leagues this year. 4 leagues maybe.
Nice.
But so his teams this year are all over. Like good team, like top of the league, middle of the league, kind of lower end of the league. Before this year, he's never come in lower than second place in a fantasy league.
Well,
So
he's surging. He's surging in the Ian Fish Bowl. My daughter's playing in that, having so much fun. But
yeah,
he had a rough start, had a bunch of bad beats himself, and now
yeah,
he's surging. I'm still holding on to first place, but I'm falling week by week. So let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll throw out some questions. Just give me a quick
sure.
answer as to what comes to mind. Who's your all-time favorite football player?
Football, probably
Yeah.
Barry Sanders.
Okay.
Jersey
I
on the
mean,
wall. I see right
yeah, that's
behind
my guy. I mean, Barry Sanders is mine. So I love that answer. I didn't know. It's funny. I did not know who your guy was, but
Yeah,
Barry
yeah,
is.
Barry Sanders. I like the two non-Vikings jerseys I had growing up were Steve Young and Barry Sanders.
I can't respect you more than I do at this moment in time. So, would you rather consume a jar of pickles, or be forced to watch on repeat a 12-hour compilation of Gary Anderson missed field goals and Jamal Anderson doing the Dirty Bird over and over and over for 12 straight hours?
12 hours in a heartbeat. I,
Over pickles.
I will not eat you can like there's no way. Like I struggle to know the amount of money people would have to raise and pool together to try to get me to eat a pickle.
I love it.
It would be a lot though.
Now, would Randall Cunningham and the Vikings have beaten the Broncos in that
Yes.
Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Now,
I think the Vikings win that Super Bowl. It sucks. It sucks
yeah,
that field goal went wide.
and think about what it would have done for Cunningham's legacy. I mean, he's got a great
Yeah.
legacy and all, but
Yeah.
that would have been special. I agree. I agree. Now, are you still mad at Mike Clay for winning the first ever SFP? Because he thinks you are.
I am not, but it's for something that happened 13 years ago. I probably shouldn't think about it as much as I do. That's probably true. I led SFE1 wire to wire. Like, not even the playoffs, I had a rough playoffs. I mean, up until the final week of the play. Like, back then, we did the playoffs as the final, 3 weeks where you combine your scores. Or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Like the top 5 teams combine their scores for the final weeks of the playoffs or whatever. I led right up until the last week. I might have led up until Monday night of the last week. Like I don't remember exactly when it was, but I was like, this is a shoe-in. I know Mike's surging here, but I got this. And no, he took it down. I'm not mad at Mike. I love Mike.
Not at all. Not at all. What's your favorite childhood memory?
Yeah. Favorite childhood memory? Gosh, I honestly don't know. I think I had an awesome childhood of your typical born in 79 style childhood of 80s and 90s riding bikes in the country and going to lakes and then parents just not around ever, it felt like back then. There was no supervision, riding your bike down a hill, jumping into a lake with your bike, that kind of stuff that I'm not sure I would let Ian do at all right now.
Yes, it was a good time for sure.
I would have been 6 doing that stuff. But no, mostly just the nostalgia of, pick up basketball or football or baseball games and just I lived in the country I grew up in small towns most of my life until I was out of college and I moved to the cities. But just small town country, nobody around except for us kids having fun. That's mainly what I remember from my childhood.
Nice. Now, how did you meet your wife?
So we worked at the same. I co-managed a video store for a while. I met her. We went to the same high school together, so I knew of her. But we didn't meet until we worked at the same video store when she was 18 and I was 20 or 21 or whatever. And and then we were at the same college. So it's kind of all a cluster of, went to the same college, worked at the same video store, etc.
Nice. Now, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Outside of the U.S., I assume.
Anywhere in the world.
Actually, I think I can actually answer that. It would probably be France. It'd probably be my wife is fluent in French. She was there for a while. We go there every few years. Uh, we love Paris, but we love taking trains around we go down to Nîmes where there's like it's the northernmost like Roman front, so there's like a Colosseum there and stuff, and lots of but I wonder how that would be like living in stuff like that year round. I'd like to say Maui because my cousin lived on Maui for many years and we traveled there a ton. And it's kind of fun watching football games at like getting up bright early in the morning, watching football games and having them be done. And then you can go about your day. And if the weather's not good in one part, you just drive 10 miles to another part of Maui and it's the weather.
Yeah. That is true. What's the last TV show that you binged?
By the way, Scotland would be the third of my.
Oh, okay.
Heavily Scottish. I actually we watch a lot of TV shows. I don't know that there's one we're binging now or last one. Like right now we're watching Upload, which is a Greg Daniels thing on Prime. But yeah.
Do you have an all-time favorite show?
Probably Breaking Bad.
Okay.
There's a few of them I've rewatched multiple times. The Office, Shield, stuff like that. But probably Breaking Bad.
How about an all-time favorite movie?
I don't know that for a long time, it was probably True Romance. There's a running joke in the fantasy industry and in like it's permeated everywhere that my favorite movie is She's All That. So and I've grown fond of it now because of the running joke, but yeah.
That's good. Now, is there a like what's the most popular movie that you've never seen?
So I don't think I have an answer to this because I ran a video store. I worked at and ran a video store for 4 years. And so I watched, and what I did was like, I worked there and in my spare time, like school and watching movies. So I honestly don't know that there's a really popular one I haven't seen. Like, I'm sure there is. I just can't think of it.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Now, do you have an all-time favorite holiday movie?
It's probably Elf. I have a few of them that are like really, really close. Elf or Die Hard, probably, and then that one's controversial for some people, I think. But the other night I watched Home Alone with my kids, and it was the first time my 5-year-old had seen it. Man, that's super enjoyable. Just rewatching holiday movies with your kids.
Oh, for sure. We kicked it off this last weekend, and we did start with Elf. So I like your taste on that. Do you have a favorite podcast outside of sports?
How Did This Get Made is probably my favorite podcast outside. I'm going to the live show this, when it's in Minnesota here. I love that.
Nice. Now, do you have a favorite food that's not named pizza? Because I mean, that's just so obvious for most people.
I do. I'm a big fan of the patty melt on sourdough bread. That's probably my number two. I'm also a big fan of Phillies. Like those are my two. Patty melts, bacon cheeseburgers, and Phillies are the three things I get almost anywhere I go.
How about a favorite beverage?
I really don't. I don't think I have a favorite beverage either. I mean, like, can we go alcoholic? Because if it's alcohol, like I am such a Scotch drinker. I'm such a whiskey guy. Balvenie 21 is my favorite Scotch.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean that's a great answer. What's your favorite vacation place to go for a vacation?
Yeah, I listed them in the place to live stuff. It's France, it's Scotland, and it's Maui. My three favorite vacation trips.
That's awesome. Now, do you have
cruises too? But that's not really a place.
Yeah, I mean it's multiple places. It's a good vacation. It's a go-to vacation. I like it. You're in the Jason Moore realm of vacationing. I like it. What is your biggest pet peeve?
I think just people being unnecessarily mean or sarcastic to people or something. I like good sarcasm, not like talk down sarcasm,
Yeah.
But, just people being unnecessarily mean, things when they don't need to be.
How do you feel when people question their invite to SFB but have not applied?
I feel bad. Like,
yeah.
I think I feel more bad than I'm not upset by it. I feel like I haven't done enough to tell people, hey, you have to sign up for this, like, because that's a very common problem.
Yeah.
I like to joke that the 40,000 people that sign up for SFB that are signed up for SFB, it would be 80,000 if everybody who wanted to play were actually signed up.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. What's the least favorite job you've ever had?
Wow. I've actually really enjoyed all my jobs. I was a dishwasher at a for a college cafeteria. I ran a video store. I was an assistant personnel director at a Renaissance festival. And then I worked at Pepsi manual labor, but I actually loved that job. I loved throwing cases. I kind of went there because I got tired of management type stuff, and I just wanted to work and go home, and that was it. And now I love this job. Like I've loved all my jobs. I honestly don't have a bad one in a bunch.
That's awesome. Now, I'll have to bring you back for some Renaissance Fair stories.
I
Because
have
you have them, and I've heard them. So maybe that's a different, like a after dark version of this podcast. Do you have I guess, what was your biggest failure, and what did you learn from that experience?
Oh man, I honestly don't know what my biggest failure is. Like I've always had lots of setbacks. Can I just I think I just want to like probably my wow, I really don't know what my biggest failure is. I feel like whenever something doesn't go my way, I can move on pretty easily and like make it a positive and learn from it. So I don't dwell on any failures really. It's not that I haven't had any. I've definitely like not gotten jobs or not had things go my way at times, but not gotten the house we wanted or whatever. Like just I've had lots of just little failures, but I don't really like to dwell on them.
That's great. I mean, obviously, no regrets. Just learn and move forward. It's kind of shaped your path, I'm sure. Talk to me about imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah, long time sufferer. I think there's actually a decent amount of this in the industry, but and especially like the more people seem to know who you are, like I feel like it's just still insanely crazy that like a lot of people look at me a certain way in the industry. I just feel like the same guy that was doing content 15 years ago, like I've been in this industry 17, 18 years now, something like that. And I still feel like the same person, but I understand, like I'm a realist. I understand that this is a giant event and it gets me well known in a certain group of people, but even at the expo and stuff, it doesn't make sense that people want to talk to me. Like it's very weird. And I go on shows and I'm like, there are so many people that are so much better at this analysis than I am. There are so many people that like have better stats or better models or better, like I feel like everything I do, I feel like there's probably someone better doing it at than me. And I feel like I just I don't feel like I should be as known as I am most of the time.
You
But
do so good, so much good, though. I mean, eh, there's a reason why people adore you and appreciate you so much. And obviously, you don't have to be perfect at everything you do, but for my book, I mean, you are a special human being, and not everybody is perfect and it does everything exactly right. But you're a great one. So you are. It's all well deserved for sure.
thank you,
Oh,
man. I appreciate it.
what do people misunderstand about you most?
Either I feel like people understand me. Like I feel like I wear my heart on my sleeve. I feel like my tweets or X or whatever are my posts are generally a normal stream of consciousness of who I am. So I feel like people have a pretty good understanding of me.
I would agree. I would agree. What are you most
You
grateful
know me in
for at
person
this
and
time?
hung out with me multiple times. Don't you feel like my online persona is pretty similar to just who I am in person?
It is spot on. I mean, as genuine as it gets. You are who you are online is who you are behind the scenes. It's who you are
Yeah,
at events. It's who you are one on one. So,
yeah.
and
Nothing,
that's
some kind of fake trying to be this. Oh, I'm all virtuous, what or whatever. Like, no, I'm the person you see.
I totally agree. What are you most grateful for at this time in your life?
Family, and it's not close. I don't even know. Like, I love my career and my job and all that stuff, but like, family is literally everything. Well, not literally, it's everything to me. Like, everything I do work related is to help, maintain an awesome family life. I love that I have a job that gives me the flexibility to go to every like swimming practice, that like do pick up and drop off for my kids, like bring them to school, to practice, to like go to every practice and game and stuff, and any kind of thing, like just to constantly be with my kids, because I feel like you get 18, 19 years of that and it's done, and I want to soak up every minute of that. So right now, family is absolutely the thing I'm most grateful for, family and friends, and just the only thing I want to really truly focus on.
That's beautiful. Now, what advice would you give your 18-year-old version of yourself?
Wow. I feel like I would tell him to start in this industry earlier. Honestly, like, it took me so long to get to this, to be a full-time fantasy football analyst guy. I feel like, knowing what I know now, I feel like I would have told him, yeah, start writing, make a site, like, do it now. Don't wait 10 more years. Um, that's interesting. Yeah, that's probably what it would. Yeah, I would probably also tell him another failure. Don't try to buy the video store that you're working at. That actually, like, that was a failure that was a success, though, right? That
Okay.
me and my co-manager we were going to buy that video store, and it ended up not working out. But for video store's sake, like, that would not have been a good investment.
Not at all. I love it. No, obviously, yeah. Follow your dreams, follow your passions, and go after it. That's good. Good advice. What advice do you have for fantasy football or fantasy sports analysts that are aspiring to get involved in the industry?
Yeah. So a lot of people will say, find a small niche, like, that's how I kind of got in with Devy and stuff like that. Or you can even say charity now, but find a small segment you can attack, commissioning, stuff like that. A lot of analysts will tell you things like that. Constant daily grind, like, be consistent. Those are all great points. I think the number one reason I have excelled in my career is connecting with people, communicating with people, and being kind, being nice. I feel like that other stuff, lots of people can do, lots of people can be nice, but if you package them all together, you're going to go, it's the work hard, be a good person, right? Like, be nice, be kind, like, be friendly, and just keep connecting with everyone. Because I think a lot of the jobs in this space are acquired by having a connection in this industry, as opposed to a blind resume.
That's perfect advice, and it's very authentic coming from you. Now, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Yeah, so this is a very tough one for me, because I've prided myself on commish work and crazy unique stuff, and being a mad scientist with stuff like that over the years, and the Devy thing. Like, I feel like there are a lot of people who play Devy or even do Devy content that don't know why it's here today. Like, I push the crap out of that. Like, that is one of the things that I'm slightly less humble about. I'm like, I pushed Devy out here. But like, a lot of people have really taken the mantle and pushed it out there. I feel like a lot of people don't know, the early days of Devy. There's a small part of me that wishes that, but really, it's just being nice and being good, and trying to do good with this hobby of ours. That's really, if that's the only thing people remember, is that, hey, he was a nice guy that helped the fantasy community do good things. That's good enough for me. That's truly good enough for me.
That's awesome. It is it's great, and that is how people see you. So I think you're heading down the right path for sure. Now, I often ask guests to name a few people that have had a massive impact on them during their
Yeah.
journey in the industry. I'm not going to do that to you because the list, I'm sure, is so long, and the last thing you would ever want to do is probably leave some
Yeah.
people out because
Yeah,
there's so many people.
I really appreciate that, because as you were saying, starting that question, I'm like, Man, there are so many that
Yeah.
at different points. I have some that come to mind, but yes, that'd be rough if I left someone really.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that to you, but I will ask you about one person. I'll ask you about Matthew Berry. You know, as I mentioned, you were once given the Matthew Berry Game Changer Award. He told me that when the FSGA reached out to him and talked to him about creating this name or this award named after him, he was of course flattered, but he agreed with the understanding that he could choose the winner. And he said that when he chose a winner, that he really wanted to focus on people who not only changed the game of fantasy football and fantasy sports industry, but maybe had gotten less recognition than they deserve given their contributions. So he said that over the years, up until the time that you won the award, there was nobody that was more suggested, nominated, and lobbied for than Scott Fish. What do those comments and the support that you've received from the incredible, incomparable Matthew Berry over the years meant to you?
Yeah, Matthew is just such a wonderful good person. It's that by the way, it almost goes against each other that so many people suggested me, but also the not recognized for his work. That it almost goes against each other. But yeah, I do appreciate and love the impact that I feel like I've had on this industry, and I like that it got recognized. But Matthew, God, he is just the nicest guy, and he is constantly like he goes so far out of his way to help other people in this industry. The old, reach out and pull people up type thing. Like that is Matthew. He's just a naturally good dude. I have a story that I haven't publicly. I don't think I've said it on a podcast or anything, but I think it totally encapsulates Matthew Berry in that several years ago. Um, I got a text from him. I was at Disney. It was late at night. It was like 9 p.m. or something, late at night. I got a text from him. He's like, "Can you give me a call for a second?" And so I call him, and he's like, "I think I can get this athlete. I'm not going to name the athlete because like I don't, but this athlete to come toy shopping for you in Fantasy Cares. Come to the Toys for Tots toy shopping with you." Um, and and then he connected me with that player's agent, and it didn't end up working out. Couldn't make it work. Like we shop during the season. Like we shop in December, so it's a tough get anyway. But here's the thing that sticks out to me about that: Matthew Berry on a random weekday night at 9 p.m. is like, I just thought of something how I can help someone else. Like he's sitting there thinking about helping other people on a random night, and calls me up and tries to make it happen. Like that's the type of person Matthew Berry is. That he doesn't just go out of his way. Like if you approach him or whatever, he is actively thinking of ways to help other people in this industry, and it's just so amazing of Matthew. I love basically everything Matthew does. I'm proud to call him a friend. I love what he's doing with Fantasy Life. Gonna root like hell for that company, that's for sure. And I man, I think we all owe Matthew just a giant thank you for like I'm in this industry because of Matthew. You're in this industry because we're all here because of Matthew. Basically, he made this happen, and he continues to push the envelope to leave this, as he would say, leave this industry better than when he got here. Right? Like, I could go on for a long time about how much Matthew means to me.
Well, we can do that in part two. But no, seriously, that story is incredible. I can relate to that. He once messaged me and said, "Hey, just want to get your information about because somebody at ESPN was looking to do a piece on a league, and nothing worked out from it. But basically, he wanted to get my information, me send him information so that he could send it to whoever it was at ESPN that was going to do a story about a league, and he thought of me and reached
Yeah,
out to me. Same kind of thing. It just
classic.
always, always doing so much behind the scenes that people don't realize. And he's just, I mean, he can't love, the fantasy industry and community enough. And I mean, you two are both just absolute legends within the community, within the industry. And, you guys have done so much on so many different levels. It's amazing. Fully appreciative of you, beyond grateful, of our friendship and everything that you do in this community. I can't say enough about you and what you've done. It's been an honor to have you here. Is there anything you want to share before we close things out here?
I don't think so, man. We've gone really long. I feel like we've gone over a lot of stuff. I'm just really happy you had me on to chat about this stuff. I love this series of shows. It's wonderful, seeing you go over. I encourage people to watch a lot of these episodes with a lot of these analysts. It's just wonderful what you're doing, man.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Let the viewers, listeners know where they can find you.
It's ScottFish24 on basically everything. Go to fantasycares.org. You can donate there. Help us do some good. ScottFishbowl.com to sign up. If you're not already signed up, go sign up for SMP 14. But that's basically it, man. It's good times. Go get Fantasy Football Weekly on iHeartRadio. Do that for us. Help us out with that too, I guess.
I love it. Listen to the man. Make sure you are following ScottFish24 everywhere you can find him. I can't recommend that enough. It's been a pleasure to have you on, my friend. Can't wait to see what's next for you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.